Have you ever imagined living with a pain so mysterious that no one can explain? Eyes bleeding for no apparent reason, an enigma that challenges medicine. And the most frightening part, no one knows why. If you want to understand rare diseases, the mysteries of human health, and what lies behind these conditions that affect so few people, this channel is for you. Here, we will explore the rarest cases and the answers that science has yet to find. Don't miss the chance to be part of this journey. Subscribe now and be the first to uncover the darkest secrets of medicine. Have you ever heard of people whose eyes start bleeding for no apparent reason? Imagine waking up one day, looking in the mirror, and seeing something that should be impossible: blood in your eyes. It sounds like fiction, right? But this is the reality for a very small number of people in the world who live with this rare and terrifying condition. And the most terrifying part, no one knows exactly why. Measurements, tests, and diagnoses try to explain the phenomenon, but to this day, there is no definitive answer. What would you do if you were living in such a situation, with no clear answers and facing the fear of something unknown? This is a medical mystery that challenges even the most experienced professionals. And what is even more concerning is that often, patients are left at the mercy of time, waiting for an explanation. Has this happened to someone close to you? Leave your comment below and share your experiences. And if you were as shocked as we were, don't forget to leave a like. Emily, a 23-year-old young woman, had always lived a healthy and active life until, suddenly, something bizarre happened. One day, she noticed her eyes were red and painful. What seemed like a simple irritation quickly turned into something much more serious. Blood spots began to appear in her eyes, with no explanation. She sought medical help immediately, but what should have been a simple consultation turned into a journey of uncertainty. Tests, diagnoses, and more tests. But no matter how many doctors and specialists Emily visited, no one knew what was happening. Everyone was puzzled, unable to explain the cause of the mysterious bleeding. The young woman found herself lost, without answers, and with a growing fear each day. Have you ever been in a situation where doctors couldn't find an explanation for what you were facing? How did you deal with that uncertainty? Emily's frustration grew to the point where she began to doubt herself. She felt alone in this struggle, with her eyes full of blood and her heart full of fear. And the worst part, no one knew what was happening to her. Now, we want to hear your opinion. Have you ever faced a medical challenge where no one seemed to have an answer? Comment below and share your story. Who knows, it could help someone going through something similar. And of course, if you're following this story closely, leave a like to support our search for answers. Imagine for a moment that you are living a situation like Emily's, where the pain is real, but the explanation seems impossible to find. The doctors are puzzled, the tests show nothing conclusive, and despite all the advances in medicine, you're still without answers. This is the nightmare of many people with rare diseases, and in Emily's case, she found herself in a medical labyrinth with no way out. The cursed disease, as many call it, was a deep mystery that even the most experienced specialists couldn't decipher. And this brings us to a big question: what happens when science has no explanation? When technological advances, the intelligence of doctors, and modern medicine can't offer an answer? How would you react if, after so many consultations and tests, the doctors simply didn't know what to do? Would you continue the search, or would you give up, thinking there's nothing more to be done? What this reveals is a crucial point. Science, no matter how advanced, still has its limitations. Not everything has an immediate answer, and often, rare diseases remain challenging enigmas for medicine. This makes us reflect on what's to come and how far science can go in unraveling these mysteries. Now, we want to know, have you ever questioned the limitations of medicine? Do you think we're really prepared to treat all diseases, or is there much more to be discovered? Comment below and share your opinion. As the months went by, Emily saw her life change drastically. The visits to the doctor became a tiring and frustrating routine. With each consultation, she received a different diagnosis, but none of them seemed to solve the mystery. At times, she felt like she was going in circles, aimlessly, without answers. The feeling of helplessness began to take over, and the hope of finding a real explanation started to fade. Each new test brought more questions than answers. She even wondered, is this my life now?
An endless search for so meting I meine var understand.
The pain in her eyes, the constant discomfort, and the frustration of not knowing what was happening consumed her more and more each day. Beyond the physical, Emily also faced a huge emotional toll. The fear that the doctors no longer knew what to do made her anxiety grow with every visit. She thought, what if no one else can help me? Have you ever felt lost and hopeless when doctors couldn't find an answer for your condition? How did you deal with the anguish of not knowing what was happening with your body? This constant uncertainty and the emptiness of not knowing what to do create a huge emotional impact. The feeling of being ignored or misunderstood can be devastating, not only for the person suffering physically but also for their friends and family. And the question is, how do you keep hope when it seems like everything is lost? Now it's your turn. What would you do if you were in Emily's place, facing a medical mystery with no answers? Comment below and share your experience. If you also believe that everyone deserves answers, don't forget to leave your like. After months of uncertainty, Emily finally received an answer, but it wasn't what she expected. During a consultation with a specialist dedicated to rare diseases, a new hypothesis emerged. She could be suffering from an ultra-rare condition that affects an extremely small fraction of the global population. Something so uncommon that doctors had taken a long time to consider it. The disease, which affects only 1 in every 1 million people, causes the blood vessels in the eyes to rupture, leading to unexpected bleeding. At first, Emily was shocked. The idea of being one of the few people in the world with this condition left her stunned, but at the same time, it brought an unexpected sense of relief. Finally, there was an explanation. But the reality was harsh. There was no definitive cure, and the available treatment was still in experimental stages. How would you react to discovering that you have an extremely rare disease? Would you feel relieved to have an explanation, or frightened by the idea of being such a rare case with few known treatments? The revelation was a mix of relief and fear. The hope of understanding what was happening to her emerged, but at the same time, the weight of knowing that medicine was still far from finding a cure for this condition kept her on alert. The diagnosis was not the solution, but it was at least the first step in a long journey of experimental treatments and constant monitoring. Now we want to know your opinion. Do you think medicine should pay more attention to rare diseases? How do you think science could speed up the search for more effective treatments? Comment below and share your thoughts. And of course, if you were moved by Emily's story, don't forget to leave a like. Although Emily had finally received a diagnosis, the road was still far from easy. The discovery of an extremely rare disease brought with it not only the physical challenge of dealing with the symptoms, but also the psychological burden of living with a condition with no known cure. Every day, she wondered, what if the experimental treatments don't work?
What if my Kondition geht's was?
Fear and anxiety began to take over her mind. The search for an answer not only affected her physical health, but also had a profound impact on her mental health. The constant stress, frustration, and fear of an uncertain future became her daily companions. Emily began to experience episodes of depression and anxiety, something she never imagined she would face. The pressure to maintain a normal life while dealing with such a rare and unknown condition emotionally overwhelmed her. Have you ever experienced the psychological impact of living with a disease or condition that doctors couldn't diagnose? How did you cope with the uncertainty and fear of the unknown? The stigma of rare diseases was also an emotionally heavy factor. Often, the people around her couldn't understand the depth of her suffering. Some even suggested that she was imagining things or that it was just drama. This kind of misunderstanding only added to the emotional weight of Emily's journey. She wasn't just fighting against the physical condition, but also against emotional isolation and a lack of proper support. Now, we want to know your opinion. How do you think rare diseases affect the mental health of those who face them? Leave your comment below and share your thoughts. And if you believe we should pay more attention to the emotional impact of these conditions, don't forget to like and support this discussion. Emily's story leads us to reflect on the crucial issue of medical research in rare diseases. The condition she faces is so uncommon that few doctors were familiar with it, and the lack of available information made her treatment even more challenging. For a long time, medicine was limited to generalized diagnoses, with little attention given to these rare conditions. The big challenge is that often, these diseases lack sufficient resources to drive in-depth studies and research, which delays the discovery of effective treatments and, in many cases, even the full understanding of what is really happening in the bodies of those who suffer from them. Emily knew that, for there to be progress in treating her disease, scientific research needed to be more focused and dedicated. However, rare diseases, by their very nature, attract far less funding and attention from the scientific community. And without further study, the answers remain elusive, leaving many patients without hope. Do you think rare diseases receive the attention they deserve from the scientific community? Why do you think these conditions are still neglected when it comes to research and funding? The scarcity of studies on rare diseases has a direct impact on the lives of those affected, like Emily. The lack of funding, in-depth knowledge, and concrete solutions makes these diseases even more invisible. What more could be done to change this? How can we ensure that more resources are directed toward this research? Now, we want to know your opinion. Do you believe society is doing enough to support rare disease research? Leave your comment below and share what you think could be done to change this scenario. If you also believe in the importance of investing more in research, don't forget to leave your like. After a long time of uncertainty, experimental treatments, and emotional ups and downs, Emily finally began to see a light at the end of the tunnel. While there was no definitive cure for her rare disease, the treatment started to bring some relief. Her symptoms decreased, and the bleeding in her eyes became less frequent. The fight was not over yet, but hope was finally being renewed. Emily's journey was not easy, but she became a symbol of resistance and resilience. She knew the road ahead would still be tough, but now she had the support of doctors, her family, and the community of people with rare conditions she met along the way. She understood that often true healing is not just physical, but emotional, and that the fight for answers and treatments should never be abandoned, even when everything seems lost. What would you do if, after so much suffering and uncertainty, you began to see signs of improvement? Would you believe in a cure, or would you continue to fear that the disease might return? Emily's story is one of struggle and overcoming, but also one of reflection. How can science do more to bring quicker answers? And more importantly, how can we support each other in such difficult journeys? Now it's your turn. What do you think of the impact of hope on people facing rare diseases? Do you believe that believing in a cure can be a key factor in recovery? Comment below, share your ideas, and if you were inspired by Emily's story, don't forget to leave a like. Throughout her journey, Emily discovered something fundamental: the importance of having a support network. When physical treatment seemed to fail, it was emotional support that kept her strong. She began connecting with others going through similar situations, joining forces with those facing rare and misunderstood diseases. In online groups, she found not only medical advice but also a community of people who understood her frustrations and fears. This support came not only from family and close friends, but also from organizations and support groups specializing in rare diseases. They not only shared information about experimental treatments and alternatives, but also gave each other strength to not give up, even when it seemed like medicine had no more answers. Have you ever experienced the strength of a support community during a difficult time in your life? How did this support network help you move forward? Emily learned that, even in the most desperate situations, solidarity and empathy can be a powerful source of healing. The exchange of experiences and hope can often be just as valuable as any medical treatment. Emily's journey also shows us how important it is to support those around us, because one person's struggle may be the struggle of many. Now we want to hear from you. How do you think we can improve support for those facing rare diseases? What actions can we take to support more people in their difficult journeys? Comment below and share your ideas. And if you believe in the power of community, don't forget to like and support this cause. Emily's story is just one among many that still don't have a definitive ending. Her journey illustrates the constant struggle against the unknown, the tireless search for answers, and the discovery that human strength goes beyond the boundaries of medicine. Although she found some relief, the battle against her rare disease is far from over. But one thing became clear: there is no cure without hope. Each story of a rare disease is a reminder that, while science advances, many mysteries remain to be uncovered. And often, the journey is not just about finding the physical cure, but about emotionally enduring the challenges and connecting with others who are in the same fight. True healing, perhaps, lies in unity, research, and above all, the will to never give up. Now we want to hear from you. What can we do to make rare diseases more visible and provide the necessary support for those facing these conditions? How can we work together to raise awareness and ensure that more people receive the care and attention they deserve? If Emily's story touched your heart, share your ideas in the comments, like this video, and subscribe to the channel to stay informed about more stories and advancements in the fight against rare diseases. Remember, every voice makes a difference in the search for answers, hope, and healing. Together, we can go further.